Dr. Catherine Anderson's coffee cup shattered against the observatory floor as the long-range sensors told a story her mind refused to accept. The Pioneer Spirit, humanity's first faster-than-light research vessel, had just vanished in a blast of exotic particles near Alpha Centauri. 3 years of mission time, 27 crew members, and humanity's dreams of peaceful first contact, all destroyed in less than a second. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the final moments of the Pioneer Spirit. The ship's sleek form, designed to showcase the best of human engineering while appearing non-threatening, moved gracefully through the star system. Then came the flash, a weapon signature unlike anything in Earth's database, and the pride of humanity simply ceased to exist. "Doctor, we're receiving a transmission," her assistant, James Morton, called from the communications station. It's being broadcast on all frequencies." The message appeared on every screen in the Lunar Deep Space Observatory, text first, followed by audio in a voice that seemed deliberately engineered to sound condescending. "Know your place, primitive species. The stars belong to the Axillary Dominion. Your vessel was destroyed as a warning. There will not be a second one. Return to your world. Should you venture beyond your solar system again, your species will face extinction." Catherine's fingers danced across her console, analyzing the transmission. The signal's complexity, the casual display of power. The Axillary wanted Earth to know just how outmatched they were, but they had made their first mistake. The transmission contained valuable data about their communication protocols. "Dr. Anderson," Morton's voice cracked. "There's something else. The Pioneer Spirit's final transmission. It came through just before." Catherine nodded, and the last message from Captain Michael Hayes filled the room. "Lunar Control, this is Pioneer Spirit. We've detected an unknown vessel approaching at FTL velocities. No response to hails. Be advised, our sensors are detecting energy signatures far beyond our theoretical limits, initiating first contact protocols and transmitting all data. Whatever happens, Earth needs to know what we found out here." Hayes out. The captain's calm professionalism in the face of death sent chills down Catherine's spine. He'd known they were outmatched, yet his final act had been to ensure Earth received their research data. "Dr. Anderson." Security Chief Robert Martinez's voice came through her earpiece. "The President is convening an emergency meeting. They need you there." "Understood." Catherine gathered her tablets, already compiling the analysis she'd need to present. As she headed for the transit pod to Washington, she passed the observatory's main window. Earth hung below, beautiful and seemingly peaceful. The Axillary thought they'd taught humanity a lesson about weakness. Instead, they'd just awakened something they couldn't possibly understand. In the transit pod, Catherine reviewed the preliminary analysis. The Axillary's attack had been precise, efficient, and completely unnecessary. The Pioneer Spirit had been unarmed, its intentions peaceful. This wasn't the act of a species defending its territory. This was casual cruelty, the swatting of what they perceived as an insignificant insect. They didn't realize that Earth had been preparing for this possibility for decades. Every nation had hidden capabilities, secret technologies held in reserve for the day humanity encountered hostile aliens. The Pioneer Spirit itself had been deliberately designed to appear less advanced than it was, a strategy that had just paid off by leading the Axillary to underestimate Earth's true capabilities. As the pod approached Washington, Catherine received an update. Military satellites had detected quantum fluctuations suggesting the Axillary ship had departed at FTL speeds. They expected Earth to cower, to hide, to accept their place in the galactic hierarchy. Instead, humanity would show them exactly why that assumption would prove fatal. The Axillary had just declared war on a species that had spent its entire history preparing for conflict, that had turned warfare into an art form, and that had developed its technology with the constant assumption that they might one day face an advanced alien threat. Catherine smiled grimly as she entered the White House Situation Room. The Axillary thought they had ended humanity's journey to the stars. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Admiral James Martinez stood in Mountain Command's war room, watching as Earth went dark. Satellite after satellite powered down. Communication arrays fell silent, and the planet's usually bustling orbital lanes emptied. To any observer, it would appear humanity had retreated in fear of the axillary threat. Nothing could be further from the truth. "Status report," he commanded, his voice echoing off the crystalline displays that lined the chamber's walls. The room, carved deep beneath the Rockies, represented humanity's best-kept secret, a command center designed specifically for interstellar warfare. Colonel Rebecca Wright stepped forward, her uniform bearing no insignia. Like everyone else in Mountain Command, her rank existed on no official record. "Ghost Fleet activation at 87%, sir. The Chinese contingent reports their stealth vessels are in position. Russian deep space platforms are armed and cloaked. The European Union's quantum network is online." Martinez nodded, studying the holographic display showing Earth's true military capabilities. For 50 years, every space launch had carried a dual purpose. Civilian satellites contained military cores. Research stations housed weapons systems. Even the International Space Station's recent retirement had been cover for its conversion into a command node. "And our friends in orbit?" he asked, referring to the axillary observers who thought they were being subtle. "Still watching, sir. Their sensors are focused on our major spaceports and military bases." Rebecca allowed herself a small smile. "They're recording exactly what we want them to see. A frightened species shutting down its space program." The Admiral turned as Dr. Catherine Anderson entered the war room, fresh from her briefing with the President. "Doctor, your assessment." "The axillary are exactly what we prepared for," she reported, bringing up analysis of the Pioneer Spirit's final data burst. "Technologically advanced, but culturally stagnant. They haven't fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Their weapons are powerful, but predictable. Most importantly, they believe absolutely in their superiority." "Then they've already lost," Martine said. "They just don't know it yet." A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission from the lunar dark side facilities. Commander Sarah Reynolds' face appeared on the main screen, her expression fierce. "Sir, Project Eclipse is ready. The quantum processors are spooled up, and our AI systems are combat-ready." Martinez checked the time. Less than 6 hours since the Pioneer Spirit's destruction, and humanity was already prepared to demonstrate why you don't provoke a species that had turned paranoid preparation into an art form. "Colonel Wright, commence Operation Silent Running," he ordered. Rebecca's fingers danced across her console, sending coded quantum transmissions to Earth's hidden fleet. Across the solar system, ships that had never appeared on any official record powered up their systems. Vessels designed by combining the military knowledge of every human conflict emerged from asteroids, deep space caches, and gas-giant atmospheres where they'd been stationed years in advance. "Sir," one of the tactical officers called out, "we're detecting axillary communications. They're laughing about us. Their transmissions suggest they believe we've surrendered without them firing a second shot." Martinez smiled grimly. "Perfect. Dr. Anderson, are the targeting solutions ready?" Catherine nodded, pulling up a galactic map marked with red points. 3 axillary frontier bases, all relatively isolated. Taking them out simultaneously will demonstrate capability while minimizing their ability to respond effectively. "Very well." Martinez squared his shoulders, feeling the weight of history. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the universe, hoping first contact would be peaceful while preparing for war. Now that preparation would show the galaxy why you should never mistake patience for weakness. "Send the attack orders. Remind all commanders. No survivors, no witnesses, no traces. The axillary believe they're dealing with primitives who barely mastered spaceflight. Let's keep them thinking that for as long as possible." As the orders went out, Martinez watched the tactical display. Somewhere up there, humanity's real fleet, ships designed for war rather than show, was about to demonstrate why Earth's long isolation had created not a weakness, but a strength, the ability to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. The Axillari were about to learn that humanity's apparent retreat wasn't surrender. It was simply the calm before the storm. Security Chief Elizabeth Cooper watched her screen intently as the countdown reached 0. In 3 separate sectors of axillary space, humanity's vengeance began with a whisper rather than a roar. Quantum infiltration successful, her lead analyst reported. Neural worms deploying. Their systems don't even recognize them as threats. They're too primitive by axillary standards. Elizabeth allowed herself a small smile. The Axillary's greatest weakness was their arrogance. They'd built their technology to defend against threats they understood, never imagining that a primitive species might attack through the computational equivalent of back alleys and sewers. "Status of Ghost Team Alpha?" she asked, switching her attention to the tactical display. Major Thomas Hunter's voice came through, barely above a whisper despite his transmission being quantum encrypted. "In position at Base 1. Their sensors still show everything normal. Stealth systems holding." Similar reports came in from Bravo and Charlie teams. 3 axillary frontier bases, each about to learn why humanity's first vessels into their space had been deliberate sacrifices. Probes designed to look primitive while carrying the most sophisticated infiltration software ever designed. "Execute," Elizabeth commanded. Across 3 star systems, human stealth ships emerged from seemingly empty space. They had been there for hours, their presence masked by technology designed not to overpower axillary sensors, but to work within their blind spots. The first base's communications went dark as dormant viruses, planted months ago by supposedly simple Earth satellites, awakened and devoured their quantum networks. The second base's defense grid turned inward, its automated systems convinced by phantom signals that the threat was internal. The third base never even realized it was under attack. Its sensors continued to show normal operations even as Ghost Team Charlie breached their primary reactor chamber. "All teams, you have 3 minutes," Elizabeth transmitted. "Make them count." Through her neural link, she watched the synchronized assault unfold. Hunter's team moved like shadows through Base 1, their nanofiber suits bending light and heat around them. The Axillari, for all their advanced technology, had never developed true stealth systems. They'd never seen the need for subtlety. At Base 2, Lieutenant Jessica Reynolds led her squad through maintenance tunnels that the Axillary's automated systems insisted were empty. Their targets, the quantum communication arrays that connected the frontier bases to the Dominion's military network. Base 3's defenders finally realized something was wrong when their reactor began its overload sequence, but by then, Commander Michael West's team had already disabled their emergency protocols. The base's own safety systems, thoroughly compromised, reported all conditions normal until the moment of detonation. 90 seconds, Elizabeth announced, watching the synchronized destruction unfold. The Axillari would later scan these bases for evidence, looking for signs of massive fleet engagements or advanced weapon signatures. They would find nothing, because humanity had learned long ago that the most effective attacks left no traces to analyze. Major Hunter's voice crackled through. "Primary targets neutralized. Beginning extraction." "Wait," Elizabeth ordered, her fingers flying across her neural interface. "Their quantum backup systems are spinning up. Give me 30 seconds. She dove into the digital battlefield, her augmented consciousness racing through the axillary networks. Their security systems were advanced but predictable, designed to stop brute force attacks, but blind to the subtle manipulations that Earth's cyber warfare division had perfected. "Done," she announced. "The base's last quantum backups will show normal operations right up until the moment of destruction. No evidence of intrusion, no warning signs. As far as their systems are concerned, these bases simply cease to exist." One by one, The ghost teams vanished back into the void, leaving behind only destruction and questions that would haunt the Axillary Military Command. 3 heavily fortified bases, thousands of personnel, gone without a single alarm being raised. In Mountain Command, Admiral Martinez received the after-action report with grim satisfaction. Send word to all commands. Operation First Strike is complete. Begin Phase 2 preparations. Elizabeth logged the final results. 3 bases destroyed, 0 human casualties, and most importantly, 0 evidence of how it had been done. The Axillary would soon learn that they hadn't just awakened a sleeping giant. They'd provoked a ghost that could strike anywhere, without warning, leaving nothing behind but destruction and fear. The real war was about to begin. Lieutenant Commander David Reynolds adjusted his civilian trader's outfit as he strolled through the bustling spaceport on Axillary Prime's largest moon. Behind him, his team dispersed casually into the crowd, each member indistinguishable from the thousands of alien merchants and travelers. Status check, he subvocalized, the quantum communicator embedded in his jaw picking up the faintest muscle movements. Team 2 in position, came the whispered response from Lieutenant Sarah Martinez. The maintenance crews never even looked twice at us. Amazing how a proper uniform and confident walk gets you anywhere. David suppressed a smile. The Axillary's rigid social hierarchy made them surprisingly easy to infiltrate. They simply couldn't conceive of someone pretending to be something they weren't. Their entire society was built on knowing and keeping one's place. Command, this is Shadow Lead, he transmitted. Phase 1 complete. Moving to acquire the package. Back in Mountain Command, Admiral Martinez watched the operation unfold through the quantum feeds. Understood, Shadow Lead. Remember, we need their defense grid protocols intact. David meandered through the spaceport's commercial district, his augmented reality display highlighting potential threats and escape routes. The real genius of Earth's infiltration program wasn't its technology. It was its understanding of psychology. Contact, Lieutenant Martinez whispered. 3 resistance members approaching from the North Quadrant. They're using the recognition signal. This was the true purpose of their mission. While the Axillary frantically searched for human warships, Earth's special forces were building something far more dangerous. A network of allies among the Dominion's oppressed species. A tall crystalline being brushed past David, dropping a data crystal that he smoothly caught and pocketed. The Centaurians, silicon-based life forms enslaved for their natural ability to process quantum data, had proved eager allies once humanity reached out. Package secured, David transmitted. Beginning Phase 2. His team split up further, each member heading to predetermined positions around the military district. The Axillary had concentrated their forces in space, never imagining that their greatest threat would come from within their own centers of power. Shadow 2, in position, Martins reported. You should see their maintenance protocols. They haven't updated their quantum security in decades. They've never needed to. David reached his designated observation post, a cafe overlooking the Defense Command Center. All teams, execute Program Whisper. Across the military district, human agents activated dormant programs hidden in maintenance systems, security cameras, and communication relays. The Axillary's fatal flaw was their reliance on technology they no longer fully understood. Their society had grown so specialized that their security forces simply trusted their systems to work. Sir, an analyst's voice came through to Mountain Command. We're detecting massive data transfers from the moon's defense grid. The Axillary's own systems are sending us their complete military protocols. Admiral Martinez nodded in satisfaction. How long until they detect the intrusion? That's the beautiful part, sir, the analyst replied. Their systems show everything operating normally. We're not hacking their network. We're asking it politely, and it's giving us exactly what we want. On the moon's surface, David sipped his drink calmly as chaos erupted inside the Defense Command Center. Alarms that only the highest-ranking Axillary could hear were blaring, warning them that something was wrong. but their computers insisted everything was normal. Shadow Lead, Admiral Martinez transmitted, "Be advised, we're detecting multiple auxiliary warships altering course toward your position. Time to disappear." David stood casually, leaving payment on his table. His team was already melting away into the crowds, becoming just more faces in the endless flow of commerce that kept the Dominion functioning. "Command, all objectives achieved," he reported. "The Resistance has their weapons, we have the defense protocols, and the auxiliary still don't know we were here. Beginning extraction." As his shuttle departed later that day, one of hundreds leaving the trading moon, David watched the auxiliary warships arrive in a display of overwhelming force. They would find nothing, of course. Humanity had learned long ago that the best victories were the ones your enemy didn't even know were victories until it was too late. The art of invisible war wasn't about winning battles. It was about making sure the battles never happened at all. Dr. Marcus Thompson watched as his artificial intelligence systems dismantled another auxiliary battle strategy before it even began. The crystalline quantum processors, hidden in a facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, worked at speeds that made light seem sluggish. "Their fleet is adjusting course again," Lieutenant Sarah Miller reported from her station, her neural interface giving her direct control over Earth's autonomous defense network. "They still think they're being clever, using stellar radiation to mask their movements." Marcus nodded, studying the holographic display showing the auxiliary fleet's attempted sneak attack on Jupiter's orbital stations. "The beauty of it is that they're using tactics that would work perfectly against their own systems. They have no concept of true adaptive intelligence." The auxiliary's automated combat systems were impressive but predictable, designed to follow complex but fixed protocols. Earth's AI networks, in contrast, evolved with every engagement, learning and adapting in real time. "Launch the Phantom Swarm," Marcus ordered. Sarah's fingers danced across her neural interface as she unleashed her creation. Thousands of microdrones, each barely larger than a coin, but carrying processing power that would have filled a room a decade ago. "Swarm deployed," she confirmed. "The auxiliary sensors are registering them as background radiation. Infiltration protocols running." In space, the invisible swarm slipped through the auxiliary fleet's defenses like digital ghosts. Each drone carried a fraction of Earth's combat eye, allowing them to coordinate without a central command system that could be targeted. "Their lead vessels are entering the kill zone," Marcus noted, watching as the auxiliary ships moved exactly where Earth's predictive algorithms had suggested they would. "Execute protocol checkmate." The swarm activated simultaneously. Thousands of quantum processors began feeding false data to the auxiliary ship's sensors, creating a digital hall of mirrors. To the auxiliary commanders, space itself seemed to twist and distort around them. "They're firing on their own ships," Sarah reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from her voice. "Their targeting systems are completely compromised." Marcus watched as the auxiliary fleet dissolved into chaos. Ships fired at phantom targets or fled from non-existent threats. Their rigid command structure, usually a strength, became a liability as confused orders cascaded through their ranks. "Command, this is Project Oracle," he transmitted to Mountain Command. "Phase 1 complete. The auxiliary's automated defense systems have been compromised. Moving to Phase 2. Admiral Martinez's voice came through. "Confirmed, Oracle. Deploy the logic bombs." Sarah's hands moved again, and the swarm shifted tactics. Now each microdrone became a carrier for the most sophisticated computer viruses ever created, programs designed to infect and subvert the quantum computers at the heart of auxiliary technology. "Sir," one of the junior analysts called out, "we're detecting massive system failures across their fleet. Their quantum cores are crashing faster than their automated repairs can handle." Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. The auxiliary had spent centuries building incredible technology, but they'd forgotten something crucial. The more advanced the system, the more vulnerable it was to subversion. "Their flagship is attempting an emergency quantum jump," Sarah reported. "Should we stop them?" "No," Marcus decided. "Let them run. Let them tell their high command how their mighty fleet was defeated without a single human ship firing a shot." The remaining auxiliary vessels, those still capable of faster-than-light travel, began disappearing from their sensors. They left behind a graveyard of dead ships, their quantum cores burned out by Earth's digital assault. "Impressive work, Doctor." Admiral Martinez's hologram appeared beside Marcus's station. "The auxiliary just learned that they're not just fighting human ships, they're fighting human ingenuity." Marcus nodded, already analyzing the battle data. Earth's AI systems would learn from this engagement, becoming even more effective next time. The auxiliary, trapped by their own technological orthodoxy, would keep fighting the last battle while humanity's systems evolved. "Send word to all commands," Martinez ordered. "Operation Digital Storm is a success. Prepare for their counterattack. This time, they'll come at us with everything they have." Marcus turned back to his displays, watching as Sarah's drone swarm collected data from the disabled auxiliary ships. The next battle would be even more one-sided. After all, humanity hadn't spent centuries developing artificial intelligence just to match their enemies. They'd done it to surpass them. General Laura Davidson stood before the holographic display in Mountain Command's strategic center, watching as the auxiliary empire began to tear itself apart. Decades of oppression were transforming into revolution, system by system, sector by sector. "The Centaurian Rebellion has seized control of 3 more mining colonies," her tactical officer reported. "The auxiliary response fleet was ambushed using our stealth protocols. No survivors." Laura nodded, her augmented reality overlay highlighting the spreading zones of rebellion in red. Beside her, Ambassador William Harrison monitored the diplomatic channels, his expression satisfied as reports continued flooding in. "The auxiliary high command is in complete disarray," William noted, scanning the intercepted communications. "Their subordinate species are using our encrypted quantum channels to coordinate their attacks. The Dominion's own security forces can't track them." "Show me the Nexus sector," Laura commanded. The holographic display shifted, focusing on a crucial trading hub where 3 major space lanes intersected. The scene was chaos. Auxiliary warships fired desperately at targets that didn't exist, while rebel forces struck from unexpected vectors. Earth's contribution wasn't ships or soldiers. It was information, tactics, and the one thing the auxiliary had never expected: hope. "Message from the Crystalline Confederation," William announced. "Their fleet has secured the quantum communication relays in Sector 7. The auxiliary are completely blind in that region now." Laura allowed herself a small smile. The crystalline beings, one of the first species to ally with Earth, had proven incredibly adept at adapting human guerrilla warfare tactics to space combat. Their natural ability to process quantum data made them devastating opponents once they learned to think beyond the rigid strategies the auxiliary had forced upon them. "General," her tactical officer called out, "priority transmission from Shadow Team 3. They've successfully delivered the weapons cache to the Nomad clans. The raid on the auxiliary supply lines begins in 6 hours." The Nomads, a species of void-dwelling beings who had been pressed into service as the Dominion's transport fleet, were about to show their masters the danger of enslaving those who knew all your shipping routes. "Admiral Martinez is on Quantum Com," William reported. "The auxiliary are pulling forces from 17 sectors to form a response fleet. They're finally beginning to realize the scale of what they're facing." Laura connected to the quantum channel, Martinez's hologram appearing beside her. "Admiral, the Empire is fracturing exactly as we predicted. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force, but they can't bring that force to bear when they're being attacked everywhere at once." "Agreed," Martinez nodded. "Our latest intelligence suggests their high command is considering a direct assault on Earth. They think if they can destroy us, the rebellions will collapse." "Let them come," Laura replied, studying the strategic display. "Every ship they send after Earth is one they can't use to suppress their rebellious sectors. And when their attack fails, she let the implications hang in the air. Speaking of rebellions, William interjected, the hive minds of the Gamma Cluster have just declared independence. Their organic computing networks are now running combat algorithms we provided. The Axillary have lost control of their entire automated defense grid in that sector. Laura watched as another section of the holographic map turned red. The Axillary had spent centuries building the galaxy's largest empire, but they'd missed something crucial. The bigger they became, the more vulnerabilities they created. New intelligence from Dr. Anderson's team, her tactical officer reported. The Axillary are evacuating 3 core worlds. They're concentrating everything they have left for one massive strike at Earth. Good, Laura said, her eyes hard. Let them come. Humanity has spent its entire history learning to fight against superior numbers and technology. Now we get to teach that lesson to the galaxy. All commands, this is General Davidson, she broadcast. Operation Avalanche is proceeding as planned. Continue supporting our allies' offensives. Let the Axillary think they still have a chance if they can just reach Earth. She turned to William. Send word to all the rebel forces. Tell them to watch what happens next. The Axillary are about to learn why you never corner a species that turns survival into an art form. The Empire of Cards was falling, and Earth was holding all the aces. Commander Alexander Foster stood on the bridge of the EDS Nemesis, watching as the largest fleet in galactic history emerged from quantum space. The Axillary had committed everything. Thousands of warships, their most advanced dreadnoughts, and their legendary planet killers. They brought exactly what we expected, he transmitted to Mountain Command, initiating Operation Thunderbolt. Around him, Earth's true fleet decloaked. Not the primitive vessels the Axillary had destroyed in their first encounters, but ships built with one purpose: victory at any cost. Each vessel represented centuries of warfare experience, designed not for show, but for the day humanity would face an advanced alien threat. All ships, combat positions, Alexander ordered. Remember your training. Remember the pioneer spirit. The Nemesis quantum processors projected the battle space in his mind. The Axillary fleet approached in their traditional arrow formation. Beautiful, symmetrical, and completely predictable. They still hadn't learned. Launch the Sentinel spheres, he commanded. From Earth's fleet, thousands of automated defense platforms emerge. Each one contained processing power that would have filled a city block a decade ago, running combat algorithms refined through countless simulations. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the Axillary are launching their first wave. Energy readings suggest they're using their new quantum cannons. Alexander smiled grimly. Activate the mirror fields. The space between the fleets shimmed as Earth's most closely guarded technology activated. The quantum cannons fired, their energy beams capable of splitting planets. But instead of destroying Earth's ships, the beams curved, twisted, and returned to their sources. Multiple Axillary capital ships disabled, the tactical officer announced. Their own weapons signatures. Sir, they're firing on their own fleet. They never considered that we might turn their energy weapons against them, Alexander noted. Deploy Phase 2 countermeasures. Earth's fleet began its real attack. Ships moved in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were actually the result of decades of quantum computing simulations. Each vessel knew exactly where to be, when to fire, and how to support its allies. The Axillary are attempting to establish a battle network, his communications officer called out. Their quantum links are active. Perfect. Dr. Thompson, you're up. In his lab beneath the Pacific, Dr. Thompson unleashed the virus that had been waiting for this moment. The Axillary's battle network, meant to coordinate their massive fleet, became their greatest vulnerability. Their flagship is losing control of its automated systems, Alexander observed. Their entire command and control structure is collapsing. The Axillary fleet's perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Ships fired at random, their targeting systems compromised. Some vessels attempted to flee, only to find their quantum drives unresponsive. "Sir," his tactical officer's voice was tense, "they're deploying their super weapon platforms. Planet Killer class." Alexander had expected this. The Accelerary's ultimate weapons, devices capable of reducing worlds to asteroid fields. They thought this would force Earth to surrender. "Launch the interceptors," he ordered. From hidden positions in the asteroid belt, Earth's specialized hunter-killer ships emerge. They had been designed for one purpose: neutralizing exactly this type of threat. The interceptors moved like liquid metal through space, their quantum drives allowing them to appear almost simultaneously at multiple points. Planet killer platforms are being systematically destroyed. The tactical officer reported. "No nuclear detonation, no quantum cascade. Our containment fields are working." Alexander watched as humanity's years of preparation paid off. The Accelari had built their weapons to be overwhelming, unstoppable. But humanity had built countermeasures for weapons they hadn't even encountered yet, preparing for every possibility. "The Accelari flagship is signaling," his communications officer announced. They're requesting terms. "Patch them through to Admiral Martinez," Alexander ordered. "Our job was to win the battle. His job is to win the peace." As the fighting died down, Alexander studied the tactical display. The Accelari had brought their entire fleet, expecting to find a primitive species cowering behind basic defenses. Instead, they'd found an enemy that had spent its entire existence preparing for this moment. The Battle of Sol System would go down in galactic history, not as a story of superior technology or numbers, but as a testament to the danger of underestimating humanity's capacity for innovation, adaptation, and sheer determination. The war was over, and the galaxy would never be the same. President Rachel Morgan stood before the assembled representatives of 27 spacefaring species, her voice carrying across the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Hall in Geneva. Behind her, through the transparent quantum crystal dome, Earth's sky shimmered with the combined fleets of former enemies turned allies. 6 months ago, the Accelari Dominion believed they could subjugate humanity through force, she began. "Today, we gather not to celebrate their defeat, but to ensure such conflicts never happen again." In the front row, the Accelari High Commander sat rigidly, his ceremonial armor stripped of its conquest markings. Beside him, representatives of formerly enslaved species watched with a mixture of hope and wariness. "Humanity could have demanded revenge," Rachel continued. "We could have dismantled the Accelari civilization as they intended to destroy ours. Instead, we choose a different path, one our ancestors learned through centuries of conflict and reconciliation." Dr. Catherine Anderson, watching from her position among Earth's delegation, remembered the pioneer spirit and its crew. Their sacrifice had led not to humanity's submission, but to a revolution in galactic society. "The Galactic Cooperation Treaty before you isn't about dominance or submission," Rachel explained. "It's about recognition. Recognition that diversity breeds strength, that different approaches to civilization don't need to conflict, and that the stars have room for all of us." Admiral Martinez, now serving as Earth's military representative to the Assembly, nodded slightly. The treaty had been his idea, turning victory into lasting peace by creating something new, rather than simply destroying the old order. "Under this treaty, the Accelari will retain their core worlds and cultural autonomy," Rachel announced. "Their technology and expertise will be vital to our shared future. But their empire of conquest ends today, replaced by a federation of equals." The Accelari High Commander stirred, his species equivalent of surprise showing in his bioluminescent patterns. He had expected humiliation, not preservation with purpose. "To our new allies who fought beside us," Rachel turned to the representatives of the rebel species, "you will have not just independence, but protection. Earth's defense technology and diplomatic support will ensure you never face conquest again." The Crystalline Confederation's ambassador chimed harmoniously. their species' expression of approval. Around the chamber, other formerly subjugated species signaled their support. And to the axillary people, Rachel addressed their commander directly. We offer not just peace, but partnership. Your civilization's achievements in quantum physics and stellar engineering are remarkable. Together, we can explore the galaxy as equals, learning from each other's strengths. Ambassador William Harrison, who had helped draft the treaty, watched the axillary representatives carefully. Their rigid posture had softened slightly, the first sign that they were beginning to understand humanity's true strength. The treaty establishes the Galactic Council, where all member species will have equal voice, Rachel explained. It creates joint scientific initiatives, cultural exchange programs, and combined defense forces. Most importantly, it enshrines the principle that advancement comes not through conquest, but cooperation. Dr. Anderson's quantum pad chimed softly. The first joint human axillary research team had just made a breakthrough in FTL technology, combining Earth's innovative approach with axillary precision engineering. Already, the peace was bearing fruit. Let history record that humanity's first major interstellar war ended not with extinction or enslavement, but with understanding, Rachel concluded. We fought not just for our survival, but for the principle that true civilization means rising above the impulse for revenge. The chamber erupted in approval, each species demonstrating support in their own way. The axillary high commander stood, approached the podium, and performed his species' ritual of respect, an acknowledgement that humanity had proved not just stronger, but wiser. As the treaty signatures were recorded in quantum crystal, Rachel turned to Admiral Martinez. Was it worth it? All the preparation, the sacrifices. Martinez watched as former enemies began cautiously interacting, sharing their first genuine diplomatic exchanges. We spent centuries preparing for war, he replied, but our greatest victory was remembering how to make peace. Above them, Earth's sky continued to shimmer with the combined fleets of a new galactic order, one built not on fear and dominance, but on the principle that true strength lies in the ability to forge unity from diversity. Humanity had passed its first galactic test, and the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter for it.